Alright, so let's talk about storage. Storage has to be probably the most boring investment you could make. Like when it comes to cameras and lenses and tripods and gimbals, those are like exciting investments because they help in your workflow. You could see them helping you produce nice results. But with storage, it's kind of boring. It just stores your files, right? Kinda. Let's get into it. Today we're talking about all the stuff you need to know about hard drives, SSDs, file formats, management. I'm gonna try to make this very simple. I'm just gonna show you what I know and what is my workflow in all this. So let's start with the very basics. This is a solid-state drive, also known as just SSD. They are small, high capacity, they are very, very fast, and also a little bit expensive. What's nice about them is that they mostly run on USB-C. They are pocket size, so you can put them in your backpack, and they come in all sorts of storage options, starting from, like most brands start from 500 gigabytes all the way to 4 terabytes, like this one, for example. And the size mostly stays the same. But there is another type of storage device, and this is a hard disk drive, or just HDD for short, or just hard drives. And these are kind of like an outdated tech, and I don't really use them on a daily basis because they are very slow and because they are kind of fragile. They have more moving components inside that could break upon impact. Like there is actually a disk that goes and turns and you write information on it and then it reads it. Dropping these is not a fun time. However, they are good for storing large amount of files. You can buy these in like 5 terabyte options for like less than 150 euros. They are perfect for backing files up. With SSDs, there are two types of file writing formats, you could say. There is the exFAT, which is very universal, and then there is also the APFS, which is more for MacBooks. exFAT is a way of writing files where it's universal. You can format it in exFAT format and hook it up to your MacBook, put some files on it, hook it up to your Windows computer, and you can switch operating systems from one to another, and it will have no problems with that. With the APFS format, it's mostly for MacBooks. The reason why you would choose it is because it is faster. It has faster file reading speeds, and from what I know, it also is better when it comes to like accidental disconnections and stuff like that. It basically is less prominent to fail. So if you mainly use a MacBook, use APFS when you format the card, and then exFAT if you're switching systems. And then there's file management. Let's actually hook this up to my computer. I'm gonna show you how I go about storing my files. When it comes to content creation, if you're an active creator, you will have a lot of footage. From almost every single day or every other day, you will have a bunch of things and you can easily get lost in your files, you know? And that's normal. Everybody has been there. What I find helps me in my craft is when I have a clean space. You can see I don't have a lot laying around here. I've got an organized setup right here. I use boxes to organize everything. Same way with my computer. I need everything in their little boxes, just so I know where do I go to find something. And let's set this SSD up. If this is a brand new SSD that you're using, first things you need to do is go to Disk Utility. On Windows it will be called a little bit different, and go and erase it. Erase everything. Even though it's fresh, it might have some garbage on it. So just format your SSD, use the file formats we talked about previously, and that's it. And you're good to go. It should take a couple seconds. Once you're there, open it up, and let's create little folders to manage our files. The first folder I'm gonna create is called Projects. That will be for my own stuff. So YouTube videos, Reels, whatever I have going on right now, whatever is in my DaVinci Resolve or Premiere Pro, whatever I'm editing at the moment. It's not meant for long-term like storage, it's meant for new stuff. Second one I will be creating is called Client Work. And that's where I'm gonna be editing my ongoing client work. Then the next thing I usually create is just the year that I'm in. So right now we're in 2024. If it was 2025, for example, I'll be creating that, and I would leave them here just so they're accessible. I'm not gonna put them in a separate folder called years. That's just another step I need to take. 2024, 2025, self-explanatory. And here is where like some labeling comes into place. I'm gonna continue by naming a folder early winter. I'm gonna create another one called spring, summer, autumn, and then late winter. The reason why I'm separating winters from early to late is because you get 2 winters when in a year. You get the January, February, and then you also get the November and December. Just so I don't have them mixed up. If I'm, for example, filming something at the start of the year or at the end of the year, I can easily separate them both. And here I'm gonna create a folder starting off by month, then the date, and then the year. I use the year anyways in case I'm transferring files or so just so there's less confusion. And then afterwards I would like name whatever this is. So we're recording an SSD video, I would call it that. And that's that. And the reason why I'm going with month first is just so January, which is 01, all those files would be labeled first, then it would follow by February, and then it would follow by March or whatever. It might confuse some people, but it's okay. Inside that folder, inside that like today's date, I know that I'm recording this on a Sony a6700, so I would call it a6700. And then I would separate it by photos and videos. And then I would just paste this corresponding photos and videos inside those folders. You can just paste everything inside here. I find it easier to be that way because I use multiple cameras. And if I was using my Lumix, for example, I would call it just S5. So these are mostly the folders that live inside my, my SSDs. Other folders that I have for my documents and for my client work I usually have on my laptop, just so I don't have to bring an SSD in case I'm going to a client and showcasing my work. I don't have to bring an SSD, everything's inside at all times, no need to bring anything. So those things I leave on my computer, but if I, for example, wanted to, I would just make a folder with my work and I would paste all my videos or the stuff I want to showcase to my clients inside here. So that's how I stay organized. When you enter the SSD, it's very simple to go to your projects, to go to your client work, or to find something you were shooting in a specific date. I find it very simple, and that's how I go about things. Then I have some healthy tips for you when it comes to storing your files. And the first one is import your files immediately after shooting. So you come home and the first thing you do before you make dinner or you make a coffee or whatever, you take your SSD, stick it in your computer and just transfer the files. You can organize them later, but they need to be backed up. That creates way less confusion, prevents you from losing that footage to formatting, for example. Maybe you forgot to import some footage and then you formatted your SD card and now it's lost. Or maybe just because you can lose your SD cards. Then the second one is move older files to your NAS or to your hard disks, which is the one I showed you. Whenever you're done with a project, you just move it to like a hard drive for backup purposes and leave it somewhere. Just for security, maybe the client in the future wants to, I don't know, make some short form content out of the stuff you filmed for them. So just leave it there for a little while and yeah. Invest in some good equipment. I've tried out a bunch of SSDs, a bunch of hard drives, and what I can tell you is invest in good stuff. That really pays off in the long run. I've used the Samsung T5 SSD for multiple years now and it has never failed me. Even the cables have been like very good, and there are some cheaper brands. You could put it on a SSD that is 10, 15, 20, maybe 50 euros cheaper and save some bucks, but it's just the security, you know? Why put all your hard work on something that is maybe prominent to fail or just not work the way it's supposed to work? You're putting yourself in a difficult situation by saving a couple bucks. Invest in some good stuff, invest in some good storage. You don't want that stuff to fail. And then good cables usually fix a lot of issues. Some SSDs may not work well because maybe you're using a cable that is not meant for that. If it's a thin cable, usually it will not work great with that. You just can't have the same transfer speeds that you get with a thicker cable. This one, for example, is, I don't know if you can see it on camera, but it's like a nice thickness Samsung cable that came with the T5. I've been rolling it up like this, not putting too much force on it, because that would just put stress on the cable. Good cables usually resolve a lot of issues. I, for example, have tried multiple brands. I've got actually can show you. I've got a SanDisk SSD right here. I've got a Kingston one right here. I've got the old T5 SSD and the T7 now. What can I tell you about them? SanDisk is great, but the form factor is a bit weird. I don't like the fact that it's so rubbery, but it works fine. The Kingston SSDs, they get really hot. I don't like them. They are a bit thicker. They are like smaller in size, but they are thicker and they get really, really hot. I like Samsung. They are small. They are kind of like a thick version of your credit card, you know? And it's easy to stick them somewhere. I've, for example, put a Velcro on my T5 so I can attach it to my laptop right here. And they don't heat up. The port has been used a lot and it hasn't failed on me. Everything's so good so far, which is why I'm using a T7 now. But mostly it's because they come in a good price. They're also good quality, great size, not in a weird shape. They also come with everything in the box. Both of the cables, USB-A to USB-C and just USB-C to USB-C, both of those cables come inside and they're good quality and they provide the necessary speeds for them to operate to their full potential, which is great. Hopefully some of these tips helped you, and trust me, organize your stuff. That will save you so much time in the future. I would have not been able to create some of the stuff that I've created in the past if I hadn't created like a nice system to store my files and like just organize everything. Thank you for watching the video. I know it's a bit different than usual, but I've got something else planned already. It's in the works. I just haven't gotten around to edit that just yet. Check out some of my other stuff. If you like gear, I've got some gear videos. If you like storytelling, I've got some of that. So yeah, they will be somewhere around here. See you next time.